There has never been a moment when you were separate from what you call existence. Before the galaxies bloomed in a symphony of cosmic fire, before the first atom trembled in the void like a hesitant whisper awakening from slumber, there was awareness, silent, self-luminous, whole. Imagine, if you will, the state before the Big Bang, not as emptiness but as pure potentiality, a vast ocean of consciousness without a single ripple to disturb its infinite calm. This awareness wasn't born. It simply is, eternal and unchanging. It did not shatter into pieces to make the world, like some divine artisan smashing a mirror to create shards of reality. No, that would imply fragmentation, a loss of wholeness. Instead, it simply folded upon itself in endless patterns, like light bending through water, refracting into rainbows of form and color. Think of a single beam of sunlight entering a prism. It doesn't lose its essence. It multiplies into spectra of beauty, each hue a playful expression of the original light. You are one of those patterns, not a creature standing inside a universe, peering out through tiny windows of flesh and bone, but the universe observing its own reflection through human eyes. Consider the eyes of a child gazing at the stars for the first time, not just seeing distant lights, but feeling an inexplicable pull, as if those twinkling points are calling back to something deep within. That's the universe winking at itself, recognizing its own vastness in miniature. Or picture an artist lost in the flow of creation, brush in hand, paint spilling across canvas. In that moment of pure immersion, the line between creator and creation blurs. You, too, are that artist, that child, that light, eternal awareness donning the costume of humanity for the sheer joy of the play. And yet, for thousands of years, a strange hypnosis took hold, weaving its spell through stories, rituals, and societal norms. The idea that there was a fragile being called human, small and temporary, a mere speck adrift in an indifferent cosmos, desperately trying to reach a distant source of perfection. This delusion birthed fear, like shadows lengthening at dusk, desire, an endless hunger that no feast could sate, ambition, a ladder climbed toward heavens that were never truly lost. It built altars of stone and gold, where offerings were made to appease invisible forces, laws etched in clay and code, promising order amid chaos, and hierarchies of power from pharaohs to CEOs, each layer a veil thicker than the last. It created kingdoms that dangled the promise of safety. Think of the walled cities of ancient Mesopotamia, fortresses against the unknown, and religions that whispered of eternity, from the pyramids of Egypt reaching for the gods to the cathedrals of medieval Europe echoing with chants of salvation. But all of it began from a single mistake, believing the wave was not the ocean. Take the biblical story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. One bite from the fruit of knowledge, and suddenly paradise feels like exile. That fall wasn't from grace. It was the birth of separation, the hypnosis setting in, convincing us we're cast out when we've never left home. You were taught that you are a body. From cradle songs to biology classes, the narrative unfolds. You were born in time, a squalling infant marked by a timestamp. You will grow old, lines etching your skin like maps of forgotten journeys, and eventually disappear, dissolving into dust as if your essence could be reduced to carbon and water. You were told that consciousness is a flicker produced by the brain, a byproduct of chemistry, nothing more. A spark from neurons firing in electrochemical symphonies, extinguishing when the machinery grinds to a halt. Neuroscience reinforces this with scans showing brain activity correlating to thoughts, leading many to conclude, see, it's all just wiring. And yet, when you look deeply, beyond the surface explanations, you see the truth mocking those definitions with a gentle, knowing smile. For even the thought, I am the body, appears within awareness, arising like a cloud in the sky, ephemeral, observed, not the observer itself. How could the container know the content better than the field that holds it? Ponder near-death experiences, where people report floating above their bodies, witnessing surgeries they shouldn't remember, or the accounts of meditators in deep samadhi who describe the body as a distant echo. Or consider anesthesia. The body lies still, the brain quiets, yet awareness persists in a dreamless void, untouched. These glimpses reveal the primacy of consciousness, not as a servant to matter but as the master architect. Everything you perceive, the air brushing your skin like a lover's whisper, the trees standing sentinel with leaves rustling secrets of seasons past, the laughter of a child bubbling up like a spring of unfiltered joy, the heartbeat in your chest thumping a rhythmic mantra of life, is not happening to you. It is you, moving in different rhythms. The miracle is not that consciousness exists inside flesh, crammed into a skull like a genie in a bottle. The miracle is that flesh exists inside consciousness, a temporary sculpture molded from the clay of awareness. Visualize a symphony orchestra. The conductor isn't separate from the music. The notes, the instruments, the hall, they all arise within the harmony. So too with you, the scent of rain on earth after a drought, evoking memories unbidden. The warmth of a hug grounding you in the now. Even the sting of a thorn prick reminding you of vulnerability. They're all modulations of the same eternal song. In indigenous traditions like those of the Lakota Sioux, everything is Wiccan, sacred, interconnected. A rock isn't inert. It's a grandfather stone, pulsing with the same spirit that animates your breath. This insight dissolves isolation, no longer a lone wanderer but a thread in the grand tapestry. From the beginning, the world was designed to make you forget. Not by some malevolent force, but through the elegant mechanics of evolution and culture. Separation is a profitable illusion. If you feel small, you can be governed. Empires rise on the backs of fearful subjects, from Roman legions to modern surveillance states, all thriving on the myth of individual fragility. If you feel sick, you can be sold a cure. The pharmaceutical industry, a trillion-dollar behemoth, peddles pills for every ache, rarely questioning if the root is perceptual discord rather than biochemical deficit. If you feel lost, you can be promised salvation. Self-help gurus and influencers hawk courses on manifesting your best life, turning innate wholeness into a purchasable upgrade. Whole systems feed on the belief that something is missing. Advertising whispers, buy this and you'll be complete. Politics divides us into tribes, fueling outrage for votes. Even education drills separation, teaching us to compete as isolated egos rather than collaborate as one. But nothing has ever been missing. The fullness you seek is the one doing the seeking, a paradox as simple as the sun seeking its own light. Recall Rumi's poetry. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Our lack is the crack through which truth seeps in if we dare to look. When the mind divides reality, it creates shadow and light, sinner and saint, life and death, binary oppositions that fuel endless drama. But existence itself has no edges. It is one continuous fabric, vibrating through infinite forms, like a single string on a cosmic guitar producing harmonies from treble to bass. You are not looking at creation. You are looking from within it, the eye within the eye of the storm. Even your longing for unity is unity remembering itself, a homesick call from the prodigal son to the father who never let go. Think of the prodigal son parable in the Bible. He squanders his inheritance in far-off lands, only to return and find the feast already waiting. That's awakening, not earning love, but realizing it's always been yours. In everyday life, this shows up in moments of synchronicity. You think of a long-lost friend and they call, or a song lyric hits just as your heart aches, mirroring your unspoken grief. These aren't coincidences. They're the fabric folding back on itself, winking reminders of indivisibility. The great teachers tried to tell you this, their words like lanterns in the fog of forgetfulness. Some spoke of God, as in the Upanishads, Tat Tvamasi, thou art that, declaring no separation between the divine and the devotee. Others of the Tao, Lao Tzu's flowing river that bends without breaking, yielding to the current rather than fighting it. The self in Advaita Vedanta, where Shankara proclaimed the world is Maya, illusion veiling the singular Brahman. Or the quantum field, modern physicists like David Bohm describing an implicate order where all is enfolded in wholeness, particles dancing as holograms of the whole. The names change with epochs and cultures, but the essence does not. There is only consciousness appearing as matter, infinite intelligence dreaming itself as you. Consider Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas. The kingdom is inside you and outside you. Or Buddha under the Bodhi tree, realizing anatta, no self, just interdependent arising. Even Einstein echoed it. A human being is a part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion. The stars are not above you, they are within you, burning as neurons in the cosmic mind, each synapse a supernova in microcosm, lighting the path of thought. Look carefully at your thoughts. They rise and fall like waves on a shore, crashing with urgency, receding into foam, yet the ocean beneath them is undisturbed, vast and serene. That stillness, that witnessing presence, has never been wounded or healed. It watches scars form and fade without a flinch. It never began and will never end, timeless as the space between breaths. It is not personal. It is universal, the same awareness that gazes from a deer's eyes in the forest or a scientist's in the lab. You call it I, but it belongs to no one, like the sky claiming ownership of clouds. In mindfulness practices, this is the gap between thoughts, that pregnant pause where the ego quiets. Eckhart Tolle describes it as the power of now, a portal to presence. Example: during a heated argument, notice the anger surging, hot, insistent, then step back. Who is watching the storm? That watcher is untouched, offering space for wisdom to emerge instead of reaction. This is why all true revelation begins in silence. Not the silence of absence, a void swallowing sound, but the silence that listens before thought, attentive and alive. When you rest there, the boundaries blur like ink in water. The distinction between inner and outer dissolves. The coffee mug on your desk isn't out there. It's awareness shaping itself as porcelain and steam. The tree outside your window stops being an object, a thing to label and own, and becomes an extension of the same awareness that beats your heart, drawing sap upward in silent photosynthesis. Japanese Zen calls this beginner's mind, empty of preconceptions, seeing the world afresh. Or in Sufi whirling, the dervish spins until the self dissolves, merging with the divine whirl. A modern example: athletes in the zone, where time stretches, the ball floats and separation vanishes, pure flow state, unity in motion. The world tells you to seek meaning, to become someone important, to fix the brokenness, like a hamster on a wheel, chasing cheese that dangles just out of reach. But meaning was never lost. It's the ground of being woven into every atom. The search itself is the distraction, a clever loop keeping you occupied. Imagine a wave trying to reach the ocean, not realizing it already is water, flailing against the tide, exhausted, when surrender would reveal the truth. That is the human condition, the constant striving to find what was never missing, from career ladders to spiritual retreats promising enlightenment next weekend. Take Steve Jobs, who in his Stanford speech said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards." Hindsight reveals the meaning was always there, unfolding perfectly, even through failures. This illusion is elegant, almost beautiful in its intricacy. It gives drama to existence, turning the eternal into an epic tale of heroes and villains. It makes the infinite play hide-and-seek with itself, giggling through the veils of form. But eventually the game becomes suffering, the laughter turning to sobs. When the wave forgets its nature, it fears the shore, crashing in terror rather than merging in ecstasy. When the self forgets its source, it fears death, building empires to outrun the inevitable. Every anxiety you have ever felt, the knot in your stomach before a big meeting, the ache of lost love, the dread of aging, is the echo of that forgetting, a phantom pain from a limb long severed in illusion. Neuroscience backs this. The amygdala, our fear center, lights up not just for tigers in the bushes, but for imagined futures, keeping us trapped in survival mode. Yet, as Viktor Frankl wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, even in Auschwitz, he found freedom in choosing his attitude, proof that suffering points to the soul's call home. And yet truth is merciful. It does not punish ignorance with thunderbolts or judgment. It simply waits to be noticed, patient as a mother awaiting her child's gaze. When awareness turns toward itself, even for a second, a breath held in quiet wonder, a sunset pausing the mind, the mirage flickers like heat haze on asphalt. You see that life is not something happening in front of you, a movie on a screen. It is something happening as you, the projector and the light entwined. The sun rising isn't out there, warming the earth. It's your own inner fire manifesting as dawn. The breath isn't mechanical. It's the cosmos inhaling through your lungs. The heartbeat, the thought, they are one continuum of divine motion, a sacred choreography where every step is perfection. The body you inhabit is a magnificent instrument, tuned to the frequencies of sensation and emotion. But it was never the musician, merely strings vibrating under invisible fingers. The mind is a dazzling mirror, reflecting infinities in fractured glimpses, but it was never the light. It polishes surfaces, yet the glow emanates from beyond. When you close your eyes and feel the hum of existence beneath your ribs, that subtle vibration, like the earth's core purring, you touch the eternal. That is not a private sensation, a quirk of your nervous system. It is the universe recognizing itself, a cosmic aha echoing through galaxies. In yoga, this is prana, the life force threading all. In physics, it's the quantum hum, zero-point energy pervading vacuum. Example: during a deep tissue massage, when tension melts and warmth spreads, it's not just muscles relaxing. It's the body remembering its unity with the whole, barriers dissolving. For centuries, humanity has chased knowledge outward, dissecting matter with scalpels and equations, charting galaxies with telescopes that pierce the veil of night, building technologies that reach toward the stars, rockets hurling us to Mars, probes whispering data from Pluto. We've mapped genomes, split atoms, and woven the internet into a neural net of global minds. But the final frontier has never been out there, in the cold expanse of space. It is the point of stillness from which perception arises, the silent source code of reality. Scientists now glimpse what mystics have always known. That observation is not passive, a detached gaze but participatory, that reality bends around consciousness like fabric around gravity, warping the field of possibility. Werner Heisenberg's uncertainty principle isn't just math, it's a nod to the dance between knower and known. Quantum mechanics calls it the observer effect. Particles exist in superposition until measured, collapsing into form under the eye of awareness. A photon isn't a wave or particle until you look. Your glance decides. Mysticism calls it creation through awareness, Shiva's dance birthing universes from a glance, or the Kabbalah's Ein Sof emanating worlds from thought. Both are the same statement in different dialects. You are not inside reality, a passenger on a train. Reality is inside you, projected from the dreamer's mind. David Bohm's Undivided Wholeness echoes this. The universe as a hologram, every part containing the all. Everyday example, the placebo effect, where belief alone heals, sugar pills curing pain because the mind declares it so. Or virtual reality. Pixels become worlds because consciousness invests them with meaning. Consider this. Every sound you hear, a bird's trill slicing morning air, every color you see, crimson rose against verdant leaf, exists only within the field of perception, rendered in the theater of your awareness. The universe outside your eyes is an interpretation, a neural rendering like a video game engine simulating reality on the fly. Remove the observer, and the cosmos becomes a silent potential, waves of probability without collapse, Schrödinger's cat purring and not purring in eternal ambiguity. You are the witness that gives it voice, the light that lets it appear, the dreamer animating the dream. In Berkeley's idealism, to be is to be perceived. No perception, no being. A practical insight. Next time you watch a sunset, ask, who is seeing this? The answer dissolves the divide, turning spectacle into intimacy. This realization does not make you a god in the egotistical sense, inflating the small self into a tyrant. It makes you transparent to the divine, a clear pane through which infinity flows unobstructed. You stop trying to control life, micromanaging outcomes, forcing doors, because you recognize that life is the one moving through you, an unstoppable river carving canyons without effort. The struggle collapses like a house of cards in a breeze. What remains is participation without possession, dancing in the flow without clutching the steps, action without anxiety, planting seeds without obsessing over harvest, love without the need to grasp, offering your heart open-palmed. Think of Mother Teresa, serving the dying not from duty but from overflowing presence, her actions effortless because ego had stepped aside. Or a jazz improviser riffing in harmony with the band, creation born from surrender. When this dawns, prayer changes from a beggar's plea, grant me this, to listening, an ear to the divine whisper already speaking. Be still and know that I am God, the Psalms urge, not striving but receiving. Meditation changes from effortful focus, wrestling monkeys in the mind, to awareness resting in itself, a feather on the breath of God. Even healing changes. There is nothing to fix, no broken toy to glue, only illusions to stop believing in, veils to lift. The sickness was never in the body, a mechanical fault. It was in perception, the dream fracturing under stress. When perception clears, like fog lifting from a lake, harmony reappears, not because it was created anew, like a wizard's spell, but because it was never absent, merely obscured. Louise Hay's affirmations work this way. I love and approve of myself, shifts inner narrative and bodies respond, cancers remit, pains fade, not magic but alignment with truth. The same principle governs time. You imagine yourself moving through minutes and years, an arrow shot from past to future, chasing perfection like a horizon that recedes. But perfection cannot be reached later, in some golden tomorrow. It can only be recognized now, in the raw immediacy of this breath. The present is not a point between past and future, a thin thread stretched taut. It is the entire field of eternity, disguised as this instant, holding all timelines in embryo. Einstein's relativity shows time as relative, bendable. Mystics like Ramana Maharshi say it's mind-made, a projection. Example, in grief, the past looms like a mountain. In joy, the future sparkles. Yet both dissolve in presence. Holding a loved one's hand, time stops, eternity fits in a touch. Every someday is a mirage, shimmering in the desert of delay. Every promise of salvation is a postponement of awakening, a snooze button on the alarm of truth. The moment you abandon waiting, I'll be happy when. The miracle unfolds, unbidden. The flower of reality blooms where you stand, petals of possibility unfurling in the soil of now. Recall the story of the monk and the mountain. A seeker climbs for enlightenment, reaches the peak exhausted, only to hear the master say, "The treasure was in the valley you left." Awakening isn't arrival, it's stopping the chase. Society will tell you this view is impractical, even dangerous, a velvet trap for the lazy, they warn. They will caution that without fear, ambition dies like a fire without fuel. Without scarcity, progress stops, innovation starving in abundance. But that fear is the last defense of the illusion, the ego's final barricade. In truth, when you no longer act from lack, a beggar scrambling for crumbs, your actions become pure, sourced from fullness. Creativity without desperation. Picasso painting not to prove himself, but to express the joy bursting within. Compassion without calculation. The Good Samaritan helping not for reward, but because the stranger's pain is his own. Science without arrogance. Marie Curie probing radium with wonder, not conquest. Art without vanity. a street musician playing for the music's sake, soul touching soul. The world does not collapse into chaos. It heals, fractures mending as we remember our weave. This understanding cannot be forced, like wrestling a river to stillness. It ripens naturally when attention grows still, like fruit on the vine under sun and rain. Silence is the gate, the quiet archway to the inner sanctum. The mind resists it because silence is death to its boundaries. No stories to spin, no identities to defend. But when you pass through, you discover that death was only another word for awakening, the ego's husk cracking to free the light within. In Tibetan Buddhism, Bardo is the space between lives. Here it's the space between thoughts, a daily dying to rebirth. To sit quietly and feel the pulse of being is not escape, a retreat to ivory towers. It is participation in its purest form, diving deeper into the dance. You are not withdrawing from the world, building walls of detachment. You are seeing the world as it truly is, transparent, luminous, indivisible, a crystal palace of interbeing. Thich Nhat Hanh's interbeing. A cloud in your tea, the sun in a carrot. Everything kisses everything else. The story of humanity has always been the story of remembering, from cave paintings invoking spirits to Renaissance rediscoveries of the soul. Every discovery, fire tamed, wheel turned, every heartbreak, lovers parted, dreams shattered, every act of love, hands clasped in crisis, has been a breadcrumb leading back to the same realization. There is only one existence, one awareness, one life expressing itself through countless faces, a masquerade ball of the divine. Look again at your reflection in the mirror, not as vanity's trap, but as oracle. The eyes staring back are windows of infinity, portals to the abyss gazing into you. The thoughts passing behind them are ripples of the same ocean, transient froth on eternal depths. You were never born as human, a blank slate etched by time, and you will never die as human, essence unscathed by the pyre. The costume changes, youth to age, joy to sorrow, the actor remains applauding the play. Nothing real can be lost. Awareness endures, unbreakable diamond. Nothing unreal can endure. The ego's empires crumble to sand. What you are cannot be described, words slipping like water through fingers, only recognized in the heart's silent nod. When recognition dawns, the search ends, not in exhaustion, a weary collapse, but in quiet laughter, the universe chuckling at its own clever game. The dreamer has awakened inside the dream, and the dream continues, radiant and light, forever unfolding. You are the divine mirror, forever reflecting itself, in every glance, every gesture, every breath. Namaste.